Imagine you land in a country, and within the first hour, you notice something you can't quite explain. Everyone is beautiful, not in a general, subjective way. Beautiful in a very specific way, a particular way. Like somewhere, there's a template, and everyone has quietly agreed to follow it. You spend 3 days there, walking through the streets, riding the subway, sitting in cafes, and slowly, something strange begins to sink in. In 3 days, you haven't seen a single person who looks completely comfortable in their own skin. South Korea performs beauty at a level that has no parallel anywhere on Earth. It is the plastic surgery capital of the world. Depending on the estimate, somewhere between 1 in 3 and 1 in 5 South Korean women has had a cosmetic procedure. In Seoul's Gangnam district, the neighborhood that gave the world its most famous pop song, entire city blocks are lined with clinics, hundreds of them. Some buildings contain 10 or 15 practices stacked floor by floor, each offering a slightly different path to the same destination. The same destination, that's the part worth sitting with, because in most cultures, beauty is considered diverse, subjective, personal. The assumption is that attractiveness has many forms, that there isn't just one version of a beautiful face. South Korea quietly rejected that assumption. Here, beauty has a consensus. Large eyes, a small narrow jaw, often achieved through a surgery called V-line, where the bone itself is shaved. A high-nose bridge, pale, luminous skin. A face that reads as soft, symmetrical, and, by design, slightly unreal. This isn't vanity, it's architecture. To understand why this happened, you have to go back. After the Korean War, South Korea rebuilt itself at a speed economists still describe as miraculous. In a single generation, the country went from one of the poorest places on Earth to one of the most developed. But that kind of transformation requires something unusual, a society moving in one direction. Millions of people sacrificing individual comfort for collective survival. That instinct, the instinct to align, never fully disappeared. What changed was the target. By the 1990s, South Korea had built one of the most powerful cultural export machines in the world. K-dramas, K-pop, Korean cinema. And those exports carried with them a very specific image of what a Korean person looked like. Smooth, polished, engineered for appeal. The screen became the standard, and the standard became the expectation. And the expectation became, for millions of ordinary people who would never be on a screen, a quiet, daily pressure. A question humming underneath everything: am I close enough? In South Korea, plastic surgery is often a graduation gift. Parents give it to their daughters, sometimes their sons, when they finish high school, not as an indulgence, as an investment. Because in a culture where appearance is professionally relevant, where job applications routinely include a photograph and interviewers openly discuss a candidate's looks, beauty is understood as a form of capital, something you spend in order to earn more. The most common procedures aren't dramatic. They're subtle, almost bureaucratic in their precision. Eyelid surgery to create a double fold, jaw reduction, rhinoplasty, small corrections stacked on top of each other, gradually moving a face from natural to optimized. The word patience often used is yasingam, confidence. And that's the honest human part of this. These aren't people who hate themselves. They're people living inside a system that has defined beauty so narrowly, so precisely, that the distance between your natural face and the acceptable face starts to feel like a problem to be solved. And South Korea is very good at solving problems. And then there are the idols. K-pop is often described as a music industry. That's technically accurate. In the same way, calling a Formula One car a vehicle is technically accurate. What K-pop actually is a system for manufacturing human beings. Children audition at 11, 12, 13. If selected, they enter a training period that can last years, sometimes a decade, where they are taught to sing, dance, speak in public, perform emotion, manage their appearance. and suppress anything that might make them seem unpredictable, complicated, real. The agencies control their diets, their relationships, their public statements. Some contracts have historically included clauses prohibiting dating. The trainees, and later the idols, are not just performing music, they are performing personhood. And the audience knows this. That's the fascinating part. The fans aren't deceived. They understand that the warmth is staged, that the parasocial intimacy is a product, that the person smiling at them from the stage has been trained to smile exactly that way, and they love them anyway. Maybe because in a culture that demands so much performance from everyone, the idol is simply the honest version, the one who does openly what the rest of society does quietly, performing the self. South Korea has one of the highest suicide rates in the developed world. Among young people, it is the leading cause of death. The reasons are complex: academic pressure, economic anxiety, social isolation. But researchers and survivors often point to one thread running through all of it: the feeling of not being enough, not smart enough, not successful enough, not, and this word appears again and again in personal testimony, pretty enough. There is a Korean phrase, umoji sangjui. It translates roughly as lookism, systemic discrimination based on appearance. The phenomenon is so prevalent, so deeply embedded, that South Korea named it, studied it, published research about it, and then largely continued. Because the system that produces the pressure is the same system that produces the economy, the culture, the global influence that South Korea is justifiably proud of. You cannot simply remove the engine because it runs hot. So instead, people adapt. They optimize. They become incrementally more perfect. They understand that the warmth is staged, that the parasocial intimacy is a product, that the person smiling at them from the stage has been trained to smile exactly that way, and they love them anyway. Maybe because in a culture that demands so much performance from everyone, the idol is simply the honest version, the one who does openly what the rest of society does quietly, performing the self. There is a version of this story where South Korea is simply a cautionary tale, a culture that went too far, a warning about vanity, conformity, and the dangers of a beauty standard pushed to its logical extreme. But that explanation isn't quite right, because the people inside this system aren't shallow. They're rational. They looked at the world they were given, the job market, the social expectations, the cultural machinery, and they made the most reasonable calculation available to them. If this is what the world rewards, I will become what the world rewards. That isn't weakness, that's adaptation. The dystopia isn't the surgery, it isn't the idol, it isn't even the pressure. The dystopia is something quieter, a world so perfectly designed to produce a certain kind of person that choosing not to become that person starts to feel like failure. A world where the most radical thing you can do is look in the mirror and decide, this is enough, and mean it. You cannot simply remove the engine because it runs hot. So instead, people adapt. They optimize. They become incrementally more perfect. They understand that the warmth is staged, that the parasocial intimacy is a product, that the person smiling at them from the stage has been trained to smile exactly that way, and they love them anyway. Maybe because in a culture that demands so much performance from everyone, the idol is simply the honest version, the one who does openly what the rest of society does quietly, performing the self.